Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Jason Shurka. Jason, how are you?
I'm good.
Did I
Thank you for
pronounce your
having
name
me.
right?
Shurka, but it's okay.
Shurka. I apologize. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
So I'm a guy. I'm a curious guy. That's what I like saying, because I could put labels on myself, author, speaker, whatever. But really, I'm just a regular guy, come from a business background, very interested in spirituality, very inspired by trying to help people get out of this place of feeling helpless and hopeless when it comes to their health. And that's really my focus. So whatever connects to that, I love doing. I write books about that, host events about that, and of course, attend podcasts about that. So thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. I'm glad you made it. So talk to us a little bit about light. You know, I know the ancient creatures had light. I know there's a lot of, I'm into spirituality. We talked about that before. Light does a lot of different things. Kind of go into a little bit of a deep dive about that.
So light is, number one, we have to ask, what is it? Light is energy. Energy makes up everything. And by the way, I do want to preface with what I'm going to share today, and anything that I share today, I will back by some sort of science to be able to make it logical and comprehensive. And if I don't do that, please stop me and ask me and challenge me so I can make it easier to understand for the viewers. So what is light? Light is energy. What are we? We are made of matter. Matter is made of atoms. Atoms vibrate. That means that we are made up of light, quite literally. And the problem in the world today is that we're focusing on everything physical. We're focusing on the physical body and how things work physically, but we're forgetting the fact that the physical plane, the physical world, is dictated by the laws of energy. And if we don't pay attention or focus on the laws of energy and just play the game from the level of the physical illusion of what we experience life as, then we're going to keep working at something and keep asking ourselves, why aren't we getting the outcome that we want? So light is the future of medicine. Light is what we're made of, and light has laws that it works by. When we understand those laws, we live a completely different and better life.
So talk to me a little bit about the light side. So it affects you, it affects your cells, it affects a lot of stuff. I know there's a lot of studies of people that don't get any sunlight, right? And they end up, being in a depressed manner. Their cells become like a whole Tony Robbins thing, right? They become very negative. I mean, there's just been a lot of studies just based off of light. Now getting into more of like light for healing, right? So I've seen and read a lot of stuff about raising your mood, right? Or getting out of a depressive state by just sitting in the sun for 10 minutes a day or stuff like that. How much more in depth is light? Like, how deep can we really go with it?
Well, you brought up the sun, which I love. The sun is the essence of life. Without it, we wouldn't live. And what is the sun? It's light. Right. So that shows us that light is the essence of life. Now, the problem in the world today is we're currently living in a world where, number one, we're not living in the places that we were meant to live in. For example, if you live in a place like New York, or Norway, or Iceland, or anything further from the equator, you're not meant to live there. It's not a convenient way to live. You have seasons. Think if you lived 1,000 years ago, where would you live? You would live closest to the equator because it's the most stable. You have the least changes, and you have the least stress, essentially, because of less changes, less seasons, less shifts, and so on and so forth. So you brought up that good point with the sun. Without the sun, we have nothing. Problem in the world today is a lot of people speak about things like spraying the skies and dimming the sun. Bill Gates has a project focused on dimming the sun. Not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact that he spoke about. They say that they want to do it because they want to fight global warming, which is a bunch of nonsense in terms of how they're doing it, because ever since they started spraying the skies to protect us from the sun, protect us from the very thing that gives us life, what happened? Overnight highs actually increased. So it actually heated the planet even more because light comes in, then it gets trapped. So the point over here is light is absolutely everything. The sun does not give you cancer. The sun actually helps you live. And the more sun you get, of course, I'm not saying sit in UV 12 for 8 hours a day. That's not normal either. But yes, we see studies time and time again that sunlight helps increase your mitochondrial activity. And the reason why that's important is because in every single cell, you have something called mitochondria. Mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. And when that mitochondria is lacking in energy or ATP production, you get to a point where you end up getting sick because your body works on energy and electricity. And when you don't have enough energy to run, just like when your iPhone doesn't have enough energy or battery on its phone, it starts lagging. Same thing with the human body. Sun will increase that mitochondrial activity, which will then result in everything else becoming better in your life. So then there are other technologies out there that will help replicate what the sun does for individuals that either don't live in an optimal place or do live in an optimal place, but have shifts 9 to 5 where they're in an office every single day and don't get the sun. And we need to counteract that.
So that would be more like a disorganized cell, right? So a cell that's getting light and is doing, and it's in its optimal nature, right? And then you get a situation where you're crammed into an 8 to 5 or 6 job where it's just fluorescent lights. You never see any real light. Mm-hmm. I've been in jobs like that where it's just, just that was your work day. You just groan to work, say hello to the boss, get your cup of coffee, and you sit in fluorescent lights until, lunchtime, and you're lucky to go get some light, or go walk around the building, and then you got to report back in and start working again. And a lot of people are just trapped in that, and then they end up having a lot of health issues that I've found.
And again, none of that it doesn't make sense to live like that, and yet we're living like that. So when people say, okay, well, if we have the sun, why do we have to use other things to supplement? Take vitamin D. Why do we take vitamin D supplements? Not because the sun doesn't work, but because we are not operating in the way that we were supposed to live. And when we live sort of like artificial lives, which is what we're doing for the most part, we wear shoes, we sleep on beds, we sleep at homes, we're around dirty electricity all the time, like Wi-Fi and radiation, so on and so forth. I'm not saying live like a caveman, but we do need to counteract those measures in order to rebalance. And sometimes those measures need to be extreme because what we're doing right now is extreme on the opposite end.
Yeah, balancing is good. I've gone, we were talking offline about my spirituality and like how I went on like a whole deep dive about it. And I just realized that a lot less is a lot more, like living humbly, not having access to as much, not needing as much, enjoying my time outside, enjoying and being grateful and doing different things to kind of raise my state. I'm on this huge Tony Robbins thing, right? And then on top of that, being out in the sun or not being in the dark as much or not being under fluorescent lights or staring at lights all day, like on a computer or something like that, greatly improves not only my health, but my state, which, counteracts with your body, right? So if you're in a happy mood and a grateful mood, your body's energy is different than it would be if you're in a stressed out situation at an office under, different lights, being sucked into different Wi-Fi's, doing different things. I could see the amount of unhealthiness that would incur and not be in balance.
Just to ground what you just said further into reality, when you think of positive thoughts, some people say, it's a bunch of nonsense. Well, there's a science behind it. Your thoughts can be measured with an EKG, and your thoughts are literal frequencies. So the difference between joy and anger is no less than an energy. It's a frequency. You will see a different wave between joy and anger. Now, when we look at it from the level of energy, which is how we really should be looking at it, the energy of joy versus the energy of anger, that wave, that frequency, will impact the water in your body. The water in your body is one of the prime things that we should be paying attention to when it comes to remaining healthy. So when you have distorted water structures in the body, because water is made up of molecules, water has a molecular formation to it, and you can either have a distorted ugly formation, or you can have a coherent, symmetrical, snowflake-like formation. So there's this guy named Dr. Masaru Emoto, passed away about 15 years ago. And in the 90s, he was a Japanese businessman turned scientist. And his question was, is it possible for my thoughts, my beliefs, my intentions, my words to shift my environment around me? And everybody said, you're out of your mind. So he took 2 petri dishes, but we'll call them glasses of water. Same water, controlled. And to one glass, and it's going to sound funny, but it happened. And this is a study, anybody can look this up to see the actual outcome of it. To one glass of the same water as the other glass, he intended very negatively towards. So he said, I hate you, you're ugly, whatever. And then to the other glass, he intended very positively towards. Thank you, I love you, I appreciate you, thank you so much, so on and so, you're beautiful, so on and so forth. And he took that water in each glass and he froze it. Flash freeze. And he froze it because he wanted to use a molecular microscope to see the molecular formation of water and if it changed in this one versus this one, and if he could repeat that over time. And lo and behold, in the negatively intended water, there was always a distorted structure. In the positively intended water, there was always a coherent structure. The reason why that's important is because we are made up of over 70% water. And what that shows us is negative thoughts, which are frequencies, negative words, which are frequencies that you can hear, negative beliefs, which are frequencies just like thoughts, all impact the water in your body. And when you have these positive oriented energies that you're putting out or within your body, you will then structure the water. That's important because energy and electricity moves through those highways and hoses of water in your body. And when you have like a kink in the hose, if it's distorted, energy gets stuck. And that's what's called a dis-ease or a disease. When you have energy that flows or symmetrical structures, that's called health. So positive thoughts are directly correlated to healthy bodies, healthy minds, and healthy souls. Not woo-woo or spiritual things you can't prove, but actual science.
Tony Robbins has like a great thing on that because he talks about it all the time, especially in all of his seminars, because I've been in one, I'm about to do another one, and I want to go to Miami to do the one in November. But he does the whole thing, he talks about it, and he's like, it's been proven that if you say negative things to water like over and over and over and over time and freeze it, just like you were talking about, and the one that's like, you know, very positive and I love you and very positive affirmations, it's the same thing, you know, like beautiful snowflakes, you can see everything, it's just amazing.
Yep.
And it is just like he kind of talks about, it's because I've been doing a lot of incantations to myself. So whenever I feel a negative thought or whenever I have some self-doubt or whatever I want to beat myself up, I go to my incantations and start saying the same thing over and over again. One of the biggest things that I have is I will believe but not doubt, right? And that's one Tony Robbins thing, right, that I'm learning. And it changes your whole, it could be a really awful day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if you believe and not doubt that it's going to be better in a couple minutes or later on or whatever, or it's not the end of the world, and it's just a different, like your mind will shift your body. It's just a wild thing.
Yeah, I have this thing that I like to call BLB. BLB stands for bottom line balance. So what's the bottom line, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? And when you start asking yourself that question on like, what's really the worst, whenever you're worried about something, what's the worst that can happen? You get to the bottom line and then you realize it's not really that bad. And by the way, I'll take that all the way to, let's say, God forbid, you're dealing with stage 4 cancer and you have 30 days to live. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is you're probably going to die. Okay. Understand that? I mean, if you could sit there and be at peace with the worst case scenario, then you're not going to spend your time, and I just gave a very severe situation, but if you have 30 days left to live, yeah, do whatever you can to try and survive. But really, if you have 30 days left to live, do you want to spend them worrying?
Right.
Or do you want to spend them understanding the bottom line, accepting the bottom line, and having the best last 30 days you possibly can? Maybe not physically, but mentally, right? It's all about that bottom line balance, and really, nothing's that bad. And really, nobody cares. That's one of the most liberating things that I've learned in my life. Sometimes, most of the time, a lot of people, and myself included, because we're all human, we think sometimes that the world revolves around us. What's this person thinking about me? Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Everybody is worrying about their own circle and worried, and they think they're so important that everybody cares about their circle. Nobody cares about your circle. Do good, be good, bless people, be blessed, and move on. Everything's okay.
Talk about the light system technology.
So we spoke about light.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke about the fact that we're living in this like artificial world right now. We spoke about the fact that we're going to use supplemental things in order to rebalance that. The light system is one of those things. So I like to refer to it as medicinal art. Of course, not saying it, not calling it a medical device or anything, but I like calling it medicinal art because it's a beautiful device. It's a piece of art that has a function. And that function is to help your body synchronize with a more coherent environment. So it all comes down to a simple law, a law of energy. And that law is called the law of synchronization with your environment, or the law of synchronization. What that states is very simple. The energy that you are in, the environment that you are in, is generally the environment that you will synchronize with. What I mean by that is when you spend enough time around a depressed person, you start feeling bad. We all know that. When you start spending time around a happy person, you start feeling better. We all know that. When women spend enough time together, their menstrual cycles synchronize. We all know that. And we all know that that's not a contagious thing. It's called synchronizing with your environment. So what that means in short is if you put yourself in a positive and coherent environment, you will synchronize with coherency. And if you put yourself in a negative and distorted environment, like a cell phone tower, you will, statistically speaking, by the way, people who live closer to cell phone towers have higher rates of cancer. Not because the cell phone tower is evil, but because it's a distorted field. It's not compatible with the human body. The human body then synchronizes with it because of the law of synchronization with your environment, and you end up getting sick. So the light system creates through encoded affirmations, like Dr. Masaru Emoto with the water experiment we just spoke about, and through full spectrum visible light, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. It will help restructure the water molecules in your body, the formations of those water molecules in your body. And when you do that, energy starts flowing. You live a much healthier life.
I wanted to ask you about something that's I've experienced a lot of, and I'm sure all of our viewers have, which is trauma, whether it be, a lot of us have, especially people that I run into have, they have bad childhood. It's a weird thing when you have a bad childhood, you end up finding people that have bad childhoods. Mm-hmm. Or if you have, an issue, you find other people that have issues. It's just a weird, how...
It's synchronizing.
Right. And is there a way that, a lot of because I follow a lot of spirituality and a lot of people, and I know for a fact that trauma gets stuck, right? And some people go to therapy. I've gone to a lot of therapy. You can do different things like Tony Robbins has, different stuff. But eventually at some point you have to let it go, right? And it's just energy that's trapped. And some people just hang on to it forever, right? I was one of those people like, my childhood sucks, right? And you watch Alex Hormozi and it's like, look, just get over it. Like, everybody has a bad childhood. Like, not everybody, but for the most part, a lot of people do, right? Cool. Like, how is that going to help you 30 years later, 20 years later? What is it that's really, who cares? Like, and he was talking about how in his personal life, like, he would never get married because his mom said that he's not marriage material or something to that fact, right? So he always held that in his head, like, I'm going to be a terrible husband, like, I would be a terrible this person, that, because his mom said something and it, like, embedded its trauma. And then one day he was just like, I'm basically holding out on enjoying my life because my mother said something to me 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and now I have a wife, and I'm like a great husband to her, right? And it's just, and he's like, am I really dating my mother or am I dating my wife, right? And I'm kind of paraphrasing what he was talking about, but I think a lot of people do have these traumas, whether it be surgeries, death, childhood, different things, right? And then they end up getting stuck, like that energy gets stuck, and they never fully release it, and it's just stuck energy. Can the light system help, or is there a way that people can use light to release a lot of that trauma?
First, let me give you a technique that has to do with magnets. Number one, to answer your question, the light system has helped many people in that way. But there are multiple things you can do while using the light system to catalyze the process. So, on the topic of Tony Robbins, he wrote a foreword for a book called The Emotion Code, written by Dr. Bradley Nelson. The Emotion Code teaches an actual technique that's a very simple technique. You can learn it yourself at home. You just need to practice it a little bit, using something called applied kinesiology and magnets. And the premise is very simple. Number one, we have to understand that emotions get trapped in the body. They're called trapped emotions. And the way that happens is in kind of like a 3-step process, and most people don't get to step 3. Step 1 is you experience this traumatic event. Step 2 is you process the traumatic event. And step 3 is you let go of the traumatic event. The problem is most people get stuck in the processing stage and then it gets trapped. So Dr. Bradley Nelson created a technique called the emotion code that I highly recommend everybody read that book because it can help you in various amazing ways that it helped me with as well. But basically the way that it works is when you experience something negative and you have this trapped emotion, the first thing you need to do is find out where did it come from and where is it trapped. The way you do that is through a technique that he teaches using applied kinesiology. And I won't go into it here. You could read the book. It will explain how to do that. But the idea is that your subconscious remembers all of these things. Consciously, you may not. So there's a way to connect to your subconscious using applied kinesiology. And when you connect to the subconscious, you'll be able to understand through asking specific questions that he teaches you how to ask with certain muscle testing, tapping into the subconscious, where do I have trapped emotions? If I do, where are they? And if I do know where they are, where did they originate from? Once you do that, there's then a process that he'll teach you in that book to bring that trapped emotion up to something called the general meridian or the prime meridian. The prime meridian or the general meridian is a meridian of energy. It's like a highway of energy. That's like the main highway outside of all the side roads, the one that connects everything. It connects from the base of your spine all the way up over your head to the top of your lip. That's your general prime meridian. And through this process of applied kinesiology, you will raise that trapped emotion to there. And then guess what? You know how a hotel room key, when you hold it next to a magnet, it erases? Okay, same thing.
Wow.
You take a magnet, once you do this process of bringing that trapped emotion to the general and prime meridian, you swipe the meridian just like you would swipe a hotel card 3 times, and it erases that information.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's see. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, somebody who's really interested in light theory and spirituality and the light system, going on into a deep dive like I have, I learned a lot of stuff right now. It's got my brain kind of hijacked. Where would I go? Where would you go to go find you?
So number one, when it comes to the light system, which is one of my favorite technologies out there because of how powerful it is and the fact that it's non-invasive, you don't have to do anything, it's effortless. And it's a beautiful piece of art in your home, wellness center, wherever it is. You can go to their website, The Light Systems, in plural, thelightsystems.com. If you want to try it before you actually buy it, that's where my organization comes in, called Unified. So Unified Healing is a network of wellness centers around the world. We have hundreds of wellness centers in 55 countries around the world. And many of those do have the light system technology in them. So if you go to unifiedhealing.com, and I'll give you that link, but it's UNIFYD healing.com, unifiedhealing.com, you'll see a Find a Center button. Click that button. And all of those gold pins all over the map, all over the world, is where you'll be able to find the light system technology specifically. Try it. And what I always say is don't go in with any expectations. Go in for a few hours when you have some time off. Take 2, 3, 4 hours to just rest. Get off the phone, put on an eye mask, and just rest, breathe, meditate. I can guarantee you, you're going to fall into the deepest sleep you have ever fell into in your entire life and have very, very, very vivid dreams around this technology. So again, you can find a center with that technology near you at unifiedhealing.com. And for me, just my website that has all my links on it, my name, jasonshurka.com.
Jason, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Awesome.